This is the Making Noise podcast.
I'm curious a little bit more about your composing and stuff, because I I love when performers start to write music and stuff, because the way I kind of see it from my perspective, and I'm curious your thoughts, is as a performer, you've been playing so much music for many years, and you've been playing a lot of people's music. So you have this wealth of experience of looking at high quality music and also low quality music too, right? um, and so in my mind, it's like you have all of these, like the composer, what's the description I'm looking for, like mind or something, because you
Sensibility.
what's that?
Sensibility, mind. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you've played, what a good climax sounds like and what makes a good climax, because you've played it before.
I know, so many times. That's such an interesting perspective, because I, until really recently, had not seen it at all that way. And I realized that's part of what Richard's been helping me with, is just to realize like how much kind of experience and knowledge and kind of taste and preferences that I have already without having like tapped into it or realized it. And I think um, that's been the really hard part. It's not coming up with ideas and kind of developing them, but trusting myself to like break the inertia of taking the first step of just noodling at the piano and like starting the improvisation, playing around, accepting ideas, trying not to reject too many ideas outright. Because, when I first started piano, I loved playing Mozart, loved playing Beethoven. And I remember like being terrified at the prospect of composing. So like, there's so many rules. And I know that when I play a wrong note, it's terrible. And that's a really bad thing. And how in the world do you learn all these rules? I'll never be able to. And so I've never quite broken out of that. Like, it honestly took me a while as a pianist. I didn't have any kind of contemporary music education, no instruction on how to relate to living composers or how to like champion their music, how it all to relate to new music. That wasn't part of my education. And so it took me a while to learn how to trust and how to collaborate with composers in a meaningful way. And where was I going with that? I don't know. It was a part of my brain that I didn't really, I saw myself as the interpreter. That was my job. So it's been really remarkable to kind of learn to trust myself and realize that I have more ideas than I give myself credit for, and to kind of be confident with that. And I also, there's, a couple collaborators of mine who are primarily performers, and they're incredible performers. And I've seen them recently kind of step into the composer role and do work in that way. And that's been really motivating for me. So it's like, this was also, you've not had any formal training in composition yet. You have no qualms about jumping into this role and developing this creativity in this way. Al Tyson is actually an example of that, right? Like I think that his degrees are in, at least in theory. I don't know what else his degrees are in. He's got a lot of them, but he does not have a formal degree in composition, yet he's clearly an incredible composer.
Like pairing it up.
Yeah. So it's a process for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the whole like trusting yourself, like your understanding or ability or knowledge. Like it makes me think about when like if you're trying to solve a problem like in your house, it's like, the water's leaking under the sink. Why? What is happening? And like you're looking at all the things, and you're like, well, I'm not a plumber. I don't know. Should I try to fix this?
Right. Like clearly this water shouldn't be coming out, and I think this is the thing I need to do. But this is not. Yeah. One thing that was really helpful that Richard was talking to me about was like, I told him that whole thing about like, oh man, I can't follow these rules. And he's like, well, think about why you remember Mozart, why you remember Beethoven, Shostakovich, like these people at a certain point, they break the rules. And when they start to break the rules, that's when their music gets really interesting. So he's trying to encourage me to not worry so much about like mimicking styles that I've played so often, but kind of just, if I'm composing for myself, which is what I'm doing right now, then just try to follow my ideas and not worry about following any kind of set of structures or rules necessarily right now. So that's
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's one of the sort of challenging things with or aspects about like most stuff when you start in the beginning is it's like, well, what are the limits? Like where do I like what are the rules, like you're saying, you know? And and if I do this, is that bad? Like
Which, when you think about it, like if you're trying out tennis for the first time, you're not thinking about like what are the ins and outs of tennis rules. You're thinking about how do I get the ball over the net. So like
right.
it's weird that we approach composition in this really like backwards way seemingly than we would a lot more tactile every day.
Yeah, that's it's you know, and I think part of it definitely stems from our training because in school, like when we learn theory and history and like we learn about these people and stuff, but even when you learn about them, it's like Beethoven didn't follow any rules. You know, he started the Third Symphony with a five chord, and
Right?
that was like boom, you know.
Starting concertos with the piano. Like what's going on?
Exactly. Like he would transition. No, there wouldn't even be a transition from one theme to the next. It would just be like, here we are, and then all of a sudden it's boom. You
See,
know, like
rule breaking. I know.
yeah, exactly. You know, so it's yeah, it's so it's. I battle with my own. I battle with rules that I create for myself. You know, like these sort of self-imposed limitations, uh, um, like when you start to sort of figure out, like, oh, this is what I do. And then
Mhm.
if you do something outside of what you think of as your voice, then it's like, oh no, am I being inauthentic or
Those are such, yeah. I mean, I don't know what you feel about that, but like I think those voices can be helpful in moderation as long as you're also able to like have some seasons where you can ignore it and like follow that idea. I don't know. I feel like that's a voice to learn to balance for me at least. I don't know if you feel the same.
yeah, there's a certain level of temperament that has to happen.
Yeah.
Pun intended, by the
Ah.
way.